III. As you see there, I coached at Ohio State, Toledo. Also was a head coach at Averett University for 12 years, a Division III school. Also coached a couple years professionally, and then have coached a lot of players, and not only that, but now do a lot of recruiting education at a variety of events that we're partnered with, everything from USA Volleyball to USA Track and Field. I speak in the high schools, Rivals, Nike, all those type of events. We get a chance to get out there and get these student athletes up to speed on the process. So one of the things I wanted to really talk about tonight, and first of all, is really putting that game plan together on how do you start getting the opportunities, how do you start putting yourself in a good position. Well, we're going to talk about building a winning team, okay? We're going to talk about academics and eligibility. We're going to talk about the recruiting timeline this evening, and then we're going to talk about how do you gain exposure, how do you get yourself out in front of college coaches and find the opportunities you're looking for, and then at the end of the day, finding the right fit for you. As you as a student athlete, we've got to find the opportunity that's going to best fit you. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you build a winning team, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about what NCSA is, just so you have an idea. First of all, we are actually the largest online network for college coaches and student athletes to be able to connect. We had over 40,000 college coaches on the back end of our network searching for student athletes. Last year, we made 12 million connections between students and college coaches, and this is a phenomenal number for us. We had over 24,000 commitments out of our network last year, okay? We actually have over 500 former college coaches, collegiate athletes, that are really passionate about helping you as a student athlete get to the next level, and we are the premier recruiting educators in the country. Everybody that you're going to see at NCSA is either, like I said, been a former college coach or been through the recruiting process as a former athlete, okay? We actually work with over 29 sports. You see them listed here that we actually work with, both men's and women's. And then here's just kind of an idea of what is the participation rate, of a high school, how many high school participants there are in sports, how many there are that go on to compete at the collegiate level, and by division level there also. But that just kind of gives you an idea that it is a selective process. It does take a lot of effort on your part to get to the next level, so you definitely have to be committed. But there is a lot of opportunities out there, to help you. Okay. Let's go here. For some reason, trying to get to the next slide here. Hold on. There we go. So let's talk about building a winning team. Okay. What does it take? And it first starts with the parents. You definitely need to be a part of this process. You need to make sure you're involved in your son or daughter's recruiting. Obviously you have life experiences. You have things that you definitely can help them with. But at the end of the day, these college coaches are going to want to know that you are involved. Not that you're, overly involved, but I know as a former college coach, it was important to me that that student athlete had parents at home that were going to, back them, in the process. Obviously, your high school coach is going to be an important part of this process. Making sure that they're able to get, be a good reference for you. That's really critical. Because I would call up your coach and say, hey, what would you say about their work ethic? What do you say, about that student, socially? Excuse me. Now, here's the one thing I want you to know about your high school coach, because I used to hear this a lot as a college coach. Well, my coach didn't get me a scholarship. I want you to understand that your high school coach is not going to be the reason that you got a scholarship or that you didn't get a scholarship. Okay? In 28 years of me coaching at the college level, not one high school coach ever talked me into offering a student athlete. It's going to be what you do on the field, the court, the diamond, what you do in the classroom. Again, they're going to be an important part as a reference, but they're not going to talk the coach into offering you. Okay? So that's important to know. The next thing is your guidance counselor. You definitely need to know your grades. Have a relationship with your guidance counselor. Always know what your grades are, because that's the number one thing a college coach is going to ask you first is, hey, what's your GPA? And if you don't know, that's not good. Okay? I can tell you, if I asked you what your GPA was and you said you didn't know, I'm thinking two things. Either GPA is not very good, or athletics is not really important to you, or academics is not really important to you because you don't even know your grades. So make sure you have a relationship with your guidance counselor. Teammates and friends. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with teammates and friends that have the same goals you do. If you're wanting to go on and compete at the college level, you're wanting to go on and get a college degree, make sure you're hanging around with teammates and friends that have the same goals. Because I can tell you, if you're hanging out with somebody who could care less about a degree, could care less about playing the sport in college, that's where you're going to end up. Okay? So make sure you surround yourself with good support. And then the next thing and the last thing is a recruiting coach. Recruiting is very, very engaging now, and it can be very overwhelming. So I definitely encourage you, and that's one of the things that we do is, we are recruiting coaches. We help you understand where to target schools. How do you make sure you're reaching out to coaches? How do you email coaches? How do you communicate? What should you do on a visit? Knowing all those things and being prepared, it's just going to put you in a better position to be more successful. So you need to have somebody that can definitely help you in the process. Now let's talk about one of the most important things I said was the academics and eligibility. So I want to talk about what are the NCAA Division I and Division II academic requirements. I want to talk about what core courses are. I also want to talk about the eligibility center. What do you need to do to make sure you're eligible at the Division I or Division II level or NAIA. I also want to talk about NAIA and Division III academic requirements. Those are a little bit different than the Division I or Division II, okay? So let's first talk about the NCAA Division I and Division II requirements. So the NCAA requires that you have a 2.3 GPA in your core courses, and I'm going to show you on the next slide on what a core course looks like. You need to complete 10 of those before you get to your senior year. So seventh semester, which is usually your fall of your senior year, you have to have 10 of those core courses completed. And you can't change them at that point, okay? Whatever you have in those grades, you cannot change those 10 once you get to your senior year. And then you've got to earn an SAT combined score or an ACT sum score that matches your core course GPA on the sliding scale that you see over here to the right, okay? So what you see over here to the right is what the NCAA looked at. So if you have a 2.3 GPA, you're going to have a 900 on the SAT, okay, or a 75 on your ACT. Now, you're probably like, 75 on ACT? Now, how do you get that? Well, the NCAA does not look at your composite score. Most of you are saying, I got a 22, I got a 23 composite. They take all those up and add them up together because they don't work with averages. And so they'll take all those, each one of those tests. So you got 20 on this, you got 19 on the math section. They add up all those to come up with the 75. Okay? So again, those are key things to know. One of the things that you need to know also about the SAT, the new one came out in March 2016. The new test is actually scoring 80 points easier than the old test. The NCAA has not changed their sliding scale. They're actually taking, on average, 80 points off your score. So if you had a 900 on the new SAT that is out there, the NCAA is actually looking at it 820 for eligibility. Okay? If you have any more questions on that, I'll give you my contact information so that you can reach out to me if you have any questions about that. But here's what the core courses look like, okay? So there's 16 classes, and there are 4 years of English. So that's your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior English. 3 years of math, algebra 1 and higher. 2 years of social science, 2 years of 2 years of science, 2 years of social science, and then you can have 1 year of extra math, English, natural science, or physical science, or you could have 4 years of extra, or you have 4 years of extra courses also. So what that means is these are the courses that the NCAA looks at for your eligibility to be able to get on a roster, Division I or Division II roster, or even get offered a scholarship, okay? If you do not have these requirements, you can't even walk onto a school, okay? So it's important that you know that and know that it does start. It could start your 8th grade year. If you took Algebra 1 in your 8th grade year, that actually counts towards your eligibility. So it does start early. Okay? Now, definitely getting the SAT and ACT test taken. Here's some upcoming dates that you see. Understand when you see these dates, you have to register for those tests at least a month in advance. Okay? If you haven't registered a month in advance, good chances are you're not going to get in that test for that for that specific test date. So make sure you're doing that. I recommend you take the test as early as spring of your sophomore year. The latest you want to take that test is spring. The latest you want to take that test is spring of your junior year. I really recommend the fall of your junior year to have at least one test score posted. Okay, because it's going to make you more recruitable. More coaches are going to be able to actually recruit you, and the sooner you can get qualified for a coach, the more recruitable you are. Plus, you want to be able to take that test as many times as you can to try to get the highest score, because college coaches are going to be able to invest more money in you the higher your grades are. Plus, more coaches can recruit you. The higher the test scores, the higher the grade you have, the more they're going to be able to, like I said, more coaches are able to recruit you. Is there anybody out there that thinks if you got a 2.3 in the core and a 900 in the SAT that you're going to get accepted to Stanford? No, you're not. So if the NCAA says, you can offer this student athlete, the problem is you're not going to get through the admissions office. Okay? Now, I definitely recommend you get help. One of the groups we're partnered with is the Princeton Review. The Princeton Review typically can help increase your score on the ACT 2 to 3 points and the SA 200 to 300 points. Now, that's huge, because one of the things I would tell a student athlete when I was a college coach, hey, Johnny, I just need 2 more points on your ACT, and I can get you $5,000 more a year. So it is tied into scholarships and things, the way they can generate money. So make sure you're putting the time and effort into those test scores also. Okay? Now, let's talk about the eligibility center. So I talked about all the grades and the things that you have to have, but you also have to register with the eligibility center, okay? And there's also an NAI eligibility center, which I'll talk about. But you've got to register with them. You go to this website for the NCAA, because they are the ones that determine your eligibility. And I recommend you register by the winter of your junior year. It's not your high school coach. It's not your counselor. It's not the college coaches who are recruiting you that determines your eligibility. It's the NCAA. So they've got to have your transcripts into them. You've got to have your test scores into them. And then they'll determine your eligibility for Division I, Division II level. Okay? Division III, they really don't have any eligibility requirements, because most Division III schools are higher academic schools anyway. So they really don't have anything put in place, for those. Okay. Now let's talk about NAI and NCAA Division III. I talked about Division I. That's your FBS schools. That's your Floridas, your Clemsons, your Stanfords. Okay. Your NAI schools and your NCAA schools, Division III, those actually, there's different requirements. So you got to have a 2.0 for NAI schools. You got to have a 2.0 or higher in all your in all your classes. Okay. You got to have an 860 on the SAT or an 18 on the ACT. Okay. Or you got to graduate in the top 50% of your class. Okay. So you have to meet 2 out of the 3 of those requirements. You don't have to hit all 3, but if you meet 2 out of the 3, so you got a 2.0 and you graduate in the upper half of your class, you're eligible at the NAI level. They gave out, and I need to change this number because a new number just came out. I met with them this past Saturday. They gave out over $600 million in scholarships last year. Okay. Now, Division III, you just have to meet the academic requirements of the schools. I said they don't give out athletic scholarships. Okay, they're not going. Like I said, they're not going to give any scholarships that say athletics next to it. But there is ways for them to generate monies for you to make it affordable for you to go to that school. Okay, so don't count out Division III schools just because you don't quote get athletic money. I told you at Division III schools, and I was able to beat Division II schools that were given athletic money. I still could come up with a better package through the ways of our university. Okay, so like I said, don't count those out. So now let's go on to the next section. Okay, the recruiting timeline. obviously, you need to know when coaches can reach out to you, when can they contact you. Well, this is kind of just a general guideline. I'll show you somewhere where you can go and you can actually print off a guideline sheet for your sport, okay? Because some of them are different. Softball may be a little bit different than baseball, but this is kind of the general guidelines that college coaches have to go by. So NAIA schools and Division III schools, they actually can start talking to you, send you recruiting materials as early as your freshman year. Okay, you can actually take an unofficial visit to any school, Division I, Division II, Division III, as early as 8th grade. That's where you pay for the visit. They can't, if you go and they give you 2 tickets to the game, or 3 tickets, complimentary tickets, but if they have a buffet set up, you have to pay for the buffet. Okay, they can't give that to you free. Your sophomore year, just after your sophomore year, Division II schools can actually reach out to you, send you recruiting materials, contact you. And then Division I, September 1st of your junior year. Now, why is this important? Well, if you're let's say you're a junior, and if you have not been getting emails, text messages, direct messages from a Division I coach, then there's 2 things that are going on. Either you're not a Division I athlete, or they have no clue who you are. It's one of the two. Because when I was at Ohio State, I guarantee you, if we were interested in you, September 1st of your junior year, we were direct messaging, we were blowing up your Twitter, we were blowing up your email, your text messages, we put your face on the Heisman. We were going to make sure you knew that we were definitely interested in you. So these are critical times to know what's going on in the process. So you have an opportunity to make sure you know when you can communicate with these coaches also. Okay? Now, how do you gain exposure? How do you make sure you're starting to get yourself out in front of schools? Well, first of all, they're going to want to see some type of video. They're going to want to see how you're doing athletically, okay? I don't care if you're swimming, you're playing football, you're baseball, basketball, running track. They want to see you physically move. So getting clips together where they can actually see that. Now, one of the things about putting clips together is make sure your best plays are up front. College coaches on average, at most, are going to look at about 2 minutes of highlights. If you have a highlight film up that's like 10, 15 minutes, they're not looking at it, okay? I used to look at, 15 to 20 plays. If I didn't like you by then, I was going on to the next athlete. So that's why you got to make sure your best stuff is up front to get them excited about you. Then they'll want to look in deeper into you if they're seeing what they're liking, okay? Camps, combines, showcases. That's really critical, that you have the opportunity to get to showcases, camps. But here's the thing you need to know about all these. If they don't know who you are before you get there, you are a needle in a haystack. So I used to work the Michigan camp and the Ohio State camp every year. And there was like over 125 other college coaches at those camps. Because they had a large number, they had to bring those coaches in to be able to even run the camp. I usually knew who I was going to target at that camp. So if you're going to go to a camp, combine, or showcase, get your film, get your transcripts, get all your information in front of those college coaches before you get there, because if they like you, they'll actually target you at that camp, make sure they reach out to you, okay? Obviously, in your key stats. And then this is probably the most important one, the academics. If you are going to send stuff to a college coach, make sure that you are actually sending your transcripts with it. And I'm going to tell you right now, I used to get huddle highlights, I used to get YouTube highlights sent to me all the time. If it didn't have grades with it, I never looked at the film. I never looked at the information. So if you want to make sure they're looking at your stuff, make sure you always send your grades with it, okay? Now, and the last thing there is social media. Obviously, social media and basically an online exposure is really key in today's recruiting. You've got to have a place where college coaches can be able to communicate with you, reach out to you, be able to see, and social media or an online presence is huge. But here's the main thing you need to know about social media. Social media is a great way to help you, but it also can kill you in the recruiting process, okay? These coaches will follow your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Snapchat. They'll follow all that stuff. And one main reason is they want to see who you are socially, okay? If they don't like what they're seeing, they'll stop recruiting you, okay? So make sure you're taking care of those social media accounts. I've been at schools where we've offered a student athlete and 6 months later pulled the offer because of what we start seeing on their social media. So make sure you are taking care of that social media account. Put good things up there. utilize it in the right way, and don't. You're in a critical time to get to the next level, and you can't say, "Oh, well, that was my buddy that posted something on my." You know what I used to say to him? I said, "Well, then if that's the people you're hanging around with, then we still don't need you." Okay, so make sure you do take a good look at your social media and make sure that's good and clean for these college coaches. Okay, now how do we find the right fit? At the end of the day, you as a student athlete need to find the fit that's best for you. All of you are different. Some of you may want a higher academic school. Some of you may want a Christian school or an HBC school. Some may want a big school, small city, whatever it is. You got to make sure you're finding the right fit. Well, that first starts academically. Okay, take this statistic. Okay, 1.6% of college athletes go on to play professionally in their sport. So what that means is 98.4% of you are using your degree for your career. So you got to make sure that you're first targeting schools that are going to have your degree program. That used to frustrate me at the time. I would have student athletes that would pay to come for an unofficial visit or pay to come to my camp, and then I would find out later on that they wanted engineering. We didn't even have engineering. Okay? And I know somebody actually asked a question there. I'll answer questions at the end, and I'll get you. We'll actually answer some of these questions here at the end in the chat section. But athletically, make sure you're targeting schools that are actually recruiting your position. Not every position is scholarships every year. Okay, so there's not always a roster spot for your position every year on every school. So find the schools that are athletically recruiting your position. And then obviously find schools, again, that are socially fitting what you're looking for. And then geographically, are you willing to say, hey, you know what, I'm willing to look at anything, any opportunity across the country, or, hey, I just want to look in the southeast or the northeast. Again, that's up to you, but we got to make sure that we're starting to do that, okay? So what I want to do is I want to kind of give you an idea of what does an online exposure look like? Well, as I said, MTSA is actually the largest online network that college coaches utilize to communicate and reach out to student athletes and vice versa, the student athlete reaching out to the coaches. Everything, basically, we got to get everything in one place. Okay? Everything that adds value to you, we've got to get in one place. It's basically an online resume. Okay? You also need to be searchable by criteria. That's where recruiting's going, is giving the coaches the ability to search you by criteria. And I'm going to show you what that looks like here in a second. And then the last thing is you've got to be proactive with coaches. The days of sitting back and saying, oh, well, I'll just, whatever coaches find me, that's where I'm going to go. That's not very good ops, okay? At the end of the day, get proactive with the schools that you fit. Make sure you're finding opportunities, that are best for you, because then you're going to put yourself in a better position, okay? So what I want to do is I want to show you actually what that looks like, okay? So let's go here, and is everybody seeing in the chat? Can you tell me if you're seeing Sam Johnson? Let me know if you see Sam Johnson. I may have to switch the way I look at this. Okay, so you don't see Sam Johnson. Okay, hold on. Let me reshare this. I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint, and now I'm going to share my Google Chrome, and you should be able to see it now. Okay, now do you guys see it? Let me know if you see it there. Yep, okay, great. Thank you. So basically, this is what an online profile looks like. But what I want to do first is I want to show you what college coaches are doing on the back end of our network, because I think it's going to give you a better idea of why you need to do certain things, okay, and why you can put yourself, like I said, in a good position here. So right now, you should see something that says search athlete, okay? Now, basically, no matter what sport you're in, each coach from their sport can come in and search you by criteria, okay? So right now, I think I'm signed in as a football coach. But you see these coaches can come in our 29 sports and search you by the sport that they're coaching at the college level, okay? So a coach actually has the ability to come in, and if they hit that search, I didn't mean to do that, okay? If they hit the search button, it starts giving them every profile that we have in our network for that sport. So like I said, this is a football this is a football coach, college football coach, and I actually used to do this. This is how I ended up at NCSA. Is I would come in the back end, and you see we've got 154,000 profiles in football.
Wow.
Each sport's different, okay? And they'll search you by, obviously, your sport-specific criteria. But let's say I wanted to look for, let's say, a quarterback. Okay? Because the college coach is not going to look at 154,000 profiles. Now, that narrows my search down to 11,000 profiles. Well, maybe I'm recruiting the state of Florida, and I know I want to just look at, quarterbacks in the state of Florida. That takes me down to 690, okay? Now, I can put in, a college coach over here can put in, maybe he's at a higher academic school. Maybe I'm at Stanford, and I know to get you in, I got to have, let's say I got to have a 3.5 GPA to get you in. Now, that narrows my search down now to 277.
Wow.
So these coaches have the ability, okay, to actually come in and search you by criteria. If you meet that criteria, your profile is going to pop up over to the right, okay? And now they're actually going to be able to go in and look at your profile, your online presence. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. As you see over the right, they actually can follow your profile. If they're following you, okay, they come in, click on follow. If they follow your profile, anytime you change anything on that profile, those coaches are notified immediately, okay? So that's the way to keep your most recent information in front of a college coach, all right? So, again, if I'm coming in basketball and I need a guard, or I'm a college baseball coach, I need a left-handed pitcher, I'm only going to be searching left-handed pitchers, okay? So I want to show you that because I think it's going to give you a better idea of why you need to do certain things on that online presence. So basically what you see here is everything, again, that adds value to your film, again, your key stats. Now, again, this is a football player, so they're going to want to know 40-yard dash. If you're a basketball player, they're going to want to know your vertical. Okay, they're going to want to know your 40-yard dash. If you're pitching, they're going to want to know your speed. Whatever it is, the profile is based on the specific sport. But everything that adds value to you, you've got to get in front of a college coach. Recruiting is so competitive now that it gets down to little things that are going to make the difference in a college coach wanting to recruit you or not wanting to recruit you. Talking about, key stats, cancer combine. I talked about events. If you're going to an event, make sure you're putting that in your profile. Let them know. Because I used to use this. So, like, if I went in, I looked at your profile, your film, whatever it was, your transit, and I liked you, I actually went to the events tab, and I was going to find out where you might be at, where I could actually target you at a camp or a combine. Okay? Personal statement, a little bit something, about you, your coaches, references. Let's say you're on travel ball or something like that, put your travel coach in there, any additional sports you're playing, all the way down to your academic information, academic accomplishments, and so on, okay? And again, the reason is it adds value to you for a coach. Think of this. If mom and dad are going to go get a new job, would you expect them to hand an employer a half-filled-out resume? No, right? Okay? It's the same way in recruiting. Everything that adds value to you, you need to get in front of those college coaches. So what I want to show you here is within the NCSA profile, you need to start being more proactive with coaches I talked about. So I'm going to hit the Find Colleges tab here. Let me see if this is going to pop open. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to go in and I'm not going to actually search schools. You need to start getting in front of more opportunities out there. Okay. So this is where in the NCSA profile, you have the ability to say, okay, you know what? I want to search maybe schools in the Southeast. And you can search them by division level, academics, tuition cost, even down to your majors, certain majors you may be interested in, okay? So you go hit the search button, go in, and it's going to start listing all the college programs in your sport that are in those states. So let's see, this is the football profile. There's 119 college football programs in those 5 states. Now, knowing where to look is going to be really important, okay? So you have the ability to go in and say, okay, you know what? I want to research Appalachian State. I'm going to click on App State. That actually is going to bring up their profile. You're going to know more about that school academically and athletically. And then the other thing is there's an interested star up in the right-hand corner. If you click on that, now your profile will show up on any of the coaches from Appalachian State. Your profile is going to show up on their dashboard as an interested student athlete. I actually recommend you do that with about 75 to 100 schools.
Wow.
Throw the net wide early, okay? Throw it, and think of this. I tell athletes this all the time. It's easy to say no to an opportunity.
Right.
It's really hard to say no to one you were never offered.
Mm-hmm.
So if you cut off schools and then all of a sudden later on you're like, oh, wow, okay, now I am interested in you, they may have already gone on and offered somebody else, and they liked you, they wanted to offer you, but you weren't interested in them. So throw that net wide early, okay? So that's some key things, and we actually have the ability to tell you, show you. I'll go to this My Colleges tab up here. We're going to be able to tell you if these coaches are following you, okay? Who's following you, what coach looked at your profile, so you actually have the ability to reach back out to these coaches. Let's say I saw a dude 19 hours ago, viewed my profile twice, I'm a 95% match for him. You need to click on Duke's logo, and you have the ability to actually reach back out to these college coaches through our network. And they'll list the coaches, telephone numbers, and then you click the email envelope up to the right-hand corner next to that interested star, and now you can email those coaches back. This is what I was talking about, being proactive. You need to make sure one way or another you are starting to reach out to coaches, communicate with them, because you cannot just, like I said, there's no advantage to sitting and waiting in the recruiting process. Because that's what I would hear saying, we're going to wait. I don't know what you're waiting on, but every day that you wait, your competition or someone else is actually reaching out to those college coaches. So you need to make sure one way or another you're researching schools, you're finding schools that are good fits for you, and then you're getting information in front of those college coaches. Okay? So that's something that I wanted to make sure you understood. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to and share my PowerPoint again with you. Okay? Let me open that again. Oops, that's my email. I don't think you need to see my email. Oops, let me go. Oh, shoot, did I? No. Stop sharing that. Let me go. More options. PowerPoint. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to really tell you what are the next steps. With NCSA, one of the things you need to do, there'll be a form that'll pop up after this webinar is actually over. Okay. And I'm gonna open it up to questions here a little bit. But basically, what we do is we would actually do an assessment with you, see if you're somebody that actually a college coach would want to recruit. Okay, so we'll talk about that and basically recruiting coordinator. But what I want to do is before we move on, I want to open it up to questions for anybody on maybe something that maybe I didn't cover that you had a question about, something like that. Do coaches recruit? Well, here's the first question. Do coaches recruit based on where you live? Okay. Now, coaches are going to recruit, obviously regionally, but they also are going to recruit nationally. They're not going to be able to fill their full roster just within an hour or 2 hours of their college, okay? Especially like a higher academic school. So these coaches will reach out to schools across their high schools and athletes across the country to be able to fill their rosters, okay? So what other questions do we have? If you just type it in the chat section, you see the little chat thing here. Oh, let me go. Trying to get the chat there. Do that. Okay. What if I'm not from the state? If you're an international student, this is actually a great platform for you to be able to get in front of college coaches that would never, here's one of the things that's helped in the recruiting process. Let's say you're from a real rural area where college coaches never get into, or you're international. This is the platform because all the college coaches now are recruiting online. So it gives you just as much advantage if you're at a rural school or an international to get in front of these college coaches. You were never able to do this before. If you didn't have a college coach coming, it was really hard for you to get yourself out there in front of a college coach. Okay? Let's see the next question here. Okay. Chat. Oops. I'm just trying to read the questions here. So I have a meeting on Tuesday with a person from NCSA and would like to know what they would be teaching me. If you have a meeting with NCSA, they're probably one of the things they're going to be doing is assessing where you're at academically, athletically. to activate your profile in our network. If we activate your profile in our network, okay, that actually makes it searchable. I showed that searchable to college coaches. It makes it searchable to college coaches across the country, so you actually are able to get more coaches to be able to find you. Okay, so that's what they'll probably you'll be going through that assessment. Okay, what if you're unable to go to camps? Well, obviously that's why you want to make sure you're getting your film, all that, and start reaching out to coaches. Camps are just another piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle. So if you don't have the ability to go to a camp or a combine or something like that, you want to make sure you're very proactive in getting your profile in front of college coaches so they can actually see you, on film and stuff. Okay. Now, any other questions that we have? Let me see if there's another one coming in here. Okay. When do you get info on valid high school or high-profile camps? That's one of the things we can help you with. We actually know all the camps, combines across the country that can help you in your sport, making sure you're going to the right ones. Make sure you're attending the ones that are going to be the best for you. What percentage of videos should be game footage versus training? Most of them should be some type of competition. But I would say like baseball or softball or something like that, they're going to want what we call a skills video. Let's say you're a pitcher. They're going to want to see your different pitches. They're not going to watch a whole game. You know what I mean? So those are things we can kind of coach you up on this end. That's why I said having a recruiting coach really helps you in the process. Is it okay to start this process as a freshman? Oh, Lord, yes. Here's the thing. Here's what I want you to understand. College coaches now are recruiting and starting to target student athletes as early as 8th and 9th grade. I'm actually at a 9th grade All-American football game here in Naples, Florida, in the next 2 days.
Wow.
Okay, I already have 5 or 6 athletes on these teams that already have offers, and they're 9th graders. So, and that's not why you start the process, but you've got to start getting on more recruiting lists. You got to start getting more recruiting databases, and especially schools that you're a great fit for. That's why your freshman year, sophomore year is really critical to get on more of those lists. Obviously, you start getting your junior and senior year, we got to really get our foot on the gas if you haven't done that, so you can get yourself out there. Okay, you're still able to as a junior and senior, but we just got to get our foot on the gas faster. The earlier you do it, the more you're not having to try to cram everything in at the last minute. Okay. Now, one of the things, and like I said, I'm going to show you my contact information, but basically, getting that assessment, what I want you to do is, if you want an assessment, you want that assessment to be with me, because obviously you've got a chance to hear me talk. I'll show you my contact information. If you have any other questions that maybe I haven't answered, I'm going to give you my text or my email, my cell number. Feel free to text me, call me, email me. But those coordinators are going to try to set a date and time, and then to make sure that we're getting you up to speed on the process. Okay. Now let's get to the next. There we go. If you go to MikeDunleavy.com, okay, it will actually take you to this page. As I told you, I do recruiting education across the Southeast and nationally. But if you go to MikeDunleavy.com, it's going to. I talked about being able to find a recruiting sheet in your profile. It'll take you to that, and if you scroll away to the bottom, each sport has a thing on it. One of the things we do also as a network, the activation and stuff, that doesn't cost anything. That assessment doesn't cost anything. But we do have things we can actually help you with, whether it's coaching sessions, your highlight film, trying to put that all together, SAT, ACT prep. There is a lot of things we can help you with if you need it. But at least we need to make sure we're getting that profile activated, and you see what you get there for that, okay? But like I said, go to my website, MikeDunleavy.com, and don't let it throw an A in there. It's going to take you to something else, the basketball coach, the professional basketball coach. But you scroll down to the bottom, and there's going to be a sheet that you can print off, a PDF, on any of your sports, okay? And it's going to give you kind of some of the recruiting guidelines, so it'll be great. It'll be a great sheet for you, okay? Obviously, appreciate you coming to the webinar. I hope you got a chance to learn a lot about, the recruiting process, what you need to do, the things that you can, do to help yourself be successful. Like I said, this is all my contact information. I want you to feel comfortable to reach out to me. Like I said, text me, call me, email me. If there's a question I didn't answer tonight that's very important to you, email me the question, and I'll make sure I get that back to you. And again, if you want an assessment, make sure that we get that profile activated. And you're definitely looking to get some help in this process. Email me or text me, or you can even call me, and we'll get a date and time set up so we can get that done, in the process. Again, one thing to remember about recruiting is there's no advantage to waiting to getting yourself in the game of recruiting, okay? Actually, again, the every day that goes by that you don't, that's less and less opportunities for you in this process, okay? So, again, make sure you're getting some type of online presence. Make sure you're starting to get all your stuff in one place. Make sure you're reaching out to these coaches, researching these schools. Again, the sooner you can do that, the more successful you will be in the process. And, again, you're going to be a lot happier because you're going to have more choices to actually choose from than just one or two. And you may not even like those schools, okay? Again, enjoyed being with you this evening, and look forward to hopefully talking to some of you in the future, possibly for an assessment. Thank you very much.